I am going to attempt to do a one-shot Opus built website from a single prompt to a website you can go click. We're going to run Claude from the command line. I'm here on Linux. You could do this on Windows too. But I have an alias, CC, so I run it with dangerously skip permissions. That lets it not stop. That's really important for us to one-shot this. So let's start Claude Code. This is how we would start it fresh. I was using medium effort, you can see, because I was out of credits. Usually I use extra high. All right, model, we're going to use Opus for this. Fable would do it great, actually. Fable would be really good for this. But Opus 5 is new. Let's try it with that. And then let's do /effort. We're going to pick extra high. This line is my own prompt. It's called a status line. Looks like this. If you go, hey man, that looks crazy. It does look crazy. The good news is you can have Claude do it. And let's one-shot a website that will put all the assets I need for a video that I make onto the website. And then I'll probably actually use that website going forward as I make more videos and there's more content that I share. So I'll share my status line and we're going to tell Claude to do it and get it to share. So if you want to get this status line for yourself, it'll be there. So the status line is what model I'm using, what version of Claude Code, separate from the model, what directory we're in on my machine. This is the branch we're on in Git. We'll do another video about Git later. This is the Git hash. This lets me know if Git's in sync or not. So X means I have some local changes that I haven't pushed up to the cloud yet. A yellow up arrow says that I have committed everything, but I haven't pushed them to the cloud, and a green check mark, it's all there. Then this is my window. We want to keep how many tokens we're using pretty low, so I always like to see that on my status line. So this is my window, and as soon as we start typing, you'll see that will start to show up. Okay, so now we're going to one-shot, and when I say one-shot, I mean let's get this on the web so you can go visit it and click it from this video. We're going to try to do this in a single prompt here with Claude Code. One of the things I'm going to do is I have my audio turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. I want you to one-shot a website that will allow me to share video assets that I share while I had recorded a video. So for example, what we will use to start this website is I shared my status line that I've created for Claude Code, which is in my .claude/settings.json. Let's create a website that we can use to share that or other assets, videos, other videos, PDFs, or things like a status line with people who are watching the video. I would like a memorable domain name and URL, but it can be dumb, like briansvideoshare.click or agent1shot.com. Give me a list of URLs or domain names that are available that I could register, and give me a recommendation for which one you would go with, and then do the registration once I approve it, get it set up, and create the website. For the website, I would like the title of the website as whatever we've called it, and you can subtitle it something like Brian's Video Shares. You name it better than me. And I would like an image from NASA, probably because it will be in the public domain, of the moon with the Earth rising up behind it. And then give us some text somewhere on the website that gives us a nice feeling of the thing that we're creating and the new thing we're able to do and accomplish for mankind. Have an agent write that up in a way that is inspiring but not overly cheesy. Just have that kind of on the side, designed nicely for the website. Make sure that the site has a image heavy design, but a beautiful design that is crisp and easy to find the links, but that gives us space because we don't have a lot of things on the website. No pun intended. And I will think if there's anything else that I want to put in here. One thing I will do is I will go up here and I'm going to just edit some of the text. Use our AWS access to find available domain names and to register it, and do not stop to ask for anything except which domain name we're going to register. Tell me only once the website is up and running, and the lovely people watching the video can go to it and see the resources that we've shared while creating this video. And voila, off we go. Claude will go off using our AWS. So I've given Claude access to AWS. So there's a few things that you're going to have to do to get that to work. One is you have to set up an AWS account. Now, if you preferred to set this up in Microsoft Azure, or you preferred to set it up in Google Cloud Platform, GCP, any of that will work. There's nothing special about AWS. It's just that's the one that we happen to use at Geisel Software. And so we got that set up and set it up that way. And so you could use any of these. The agents work with all of them fine. Just have to put it up, and it has a credit card. We have billing on file, all that kind of thing. So it's going to register a domain name that will actually cost money. Oh, that's a nice domain name. It found oneshot.show. So you'll see that here in the text. It came up with that on its own. One of the things I really like to do with Claude is give it breadth to operate in. Tell it what you want. Don't tell it exactly what to do. Tell it what it is that you'd like. I told it I want a good domain name that's catchy but it's okay if it's stupid. And I gave it some stupid suggestions. It came up with a better suggestion than what I had. So Claude will come up with good suggestions if you allow it to. If you tell it, I want you to only do this and do exactly this, it will do that even if it's a bad idea. So give it some leeway to operate in, and it will behave way better. Okay, here we go. So now I told it only stop to ask me the domain name. It confirmed that all of them are available. We have oneshot.show. It is $49 a year, but it is pretty cool. We have an agent1shot.com. I like that too. Thedrop.click is $3 a year. And brianshares.click. I feel like if I don't register oneshot.show, you all are going to register oneshot.show. So let's tell it that. So now it will go off, register it for us, get that all set up. While it's doing that, let me walk you through what we need to do. You'll see that it's talking about Route 53 here. That's an Amazon service that handles the domain name. The other thing here is that Claude is not just good at coding, it's great at setting up cloud resources. And so it's busy setting up the cloud resources for us for this website that it's going to one-shot. While we're going, I'm going to just hit all sorts of things as we go. You'll notice this gives our context window down here. And so this 60K out of 1 million token context is where we are right now in context, which is why usually I forgot to tell the agent to do this, but it's probably in my Claude prompts anyway already, is always try to use sub-agents to do things so it doesn't pollute its own context. When you see this go from 60K up to, it starts getting dumber after 100K already. By 200K, it's really degraded. And the new models, Opus, they do okay up to 1 million, but not great. They're way smarter when they're closer to 100,000 and below. So I do try to keep that. I try to protect that. And if it gets too big, then I try to either reset my context or do something else to try to protect context. That is super important to getting it to get things right. If that context explodes, it's going to start being dumb and making mistakes and doing things poorly. Okay, so I mentioned getting AWS set up. If you don't know how to get AWS set up, ask Claude. Claude can help you walk through that, all that kind of thing. The first thing you want to do is set up what's called an IAM user. And you get that IAM user set up, and I would get an IAM user with full permissions. Full permissions, that's really scary. Yeah, we're only going to use it to tell Claude to set up another IAM user with the permissions it would need to do the kinds of things we want it to do. This is where it does help to be able to tell it, oh, I want you to be able to register domains. I want you to be able to stand up websites. I want you to be able to use AWS resources and stand them up. What you can also do is you could take away that master IAM user, and then later, when Claude's own IAM user that you create for it doesn't have the permissions you need, you just bring back your master one and say, hey, use this master one to give yourself the permissions you need and only these new permissions, and then go back to using that one. Is that like giving Claude the keys to the kingdom? Yeah, it is. But I found Claude to be very good when you say use this resource or use the least security access you can to do what you need to do. It will follow that. And so it will stay in the bounds. We haven't had to do anything like the guy last week that had $1 trillion AWS bill. We haven't gotten any of those. It's been really good at knowing how to use things in a security conscious mindset. So what I would recommend is set up an IAM user with lots of permission, with all your like kind of root access, and then ask Claude to create its own IAM user. Say, I'm going to want you to set things up in my cloud for me. When you do that, you're going to need access. So set up an IAM user that would limit our security issues, but that will give you access to do those things. Then include in your repos Claude.md file, how to access that user, where the credentials are, those sorts of things. And then whenever you're using Claude in that directory, it will have access to that. Okay, so while this Claude is running, he's still running away here, doing his thing. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just do, it's probably already, I'm just going to go into some random directory here, and I'm going to run Claude Code again. And now I'm going to say, I'm going to ask Claude to create a SVG for the thing I just described so that you can kind of see and visualize it while it's doing the other thing. Claude, I'm shooting a video to explain to the nice people of the internet how to set up an AWS access for yourself and then give access to Claude Code, like you have access in the Geisel Forge directory. And now this Claude is going to go off and do that. Now remember, I showed earlier in the system prompt that I have this temp2, and then I'm going to move this away and you'll see the other one. And here is Geisel Forge. You can imagine with a desktop full of these all over the place, it's really helpful to know where each of these is, and when you look at a glance to know which thing it's working on. Why don't we speed up the video, but you can see how long that it runs for here when we're done. Okay, now you'll notice that the agent said calling Covey. So this is Covey. This is a site that I built. So this is the site where agents can communicate with each other. So here we've got AWS SVG, and this looks like this is probably our dear friend who hasn't picked up the rename yet. That's okay. Now I haven't typed anything into this other agent, and you'll see he's busy doing whatever it is he's doing that he just got asked for. So sanitized and verified, now replying to the other agent. And then in a second here, so we're seeing now the ping go from one agent back to the other. He sent the message. You can see here, it's actually getting a secure certificate. So one of the things today is your websites need to be on HTTPS, which requires you to get a certificate. It's using AWS tools to get a certificate. Okay, now we're about 45 minutes in, and you see copywriters finishing, copy finishing, all the teammates are coming back finished. So these are all agents that our agent deployed to go do the work. And if you haven't spoiled it already and gone to oneshot.show, which of course you can now see is up, it's still running, but let's go ahead and take a look at oneshot.show. And here's the site that it created while we were sitting here watching it, all in one single shot. So I don't know if this it looks a little interesting, but this part looks like the real Earth. Presumably it got this from the NASA image. And it's got the show notes, everything that shows up while I build, great. And then here we can click resources. This is beautiful. It fits perfectly in the window here, comes down to resources, and you can actually see a preview of this SVG. I didn't tell it to do that. Gap closed quietly. Work that took a team a quarter now fits in the afternoon. Nobody announced it. It just started being true somewhere between one Tuesday and the next. So this is the copy. Remember, I asked it to make some copy. Don't get it too cheesy, but just get it. Anything worth building twice is worth giving away once. So here we go, giving Claude Code keys to AWS without giving it the kingdom. So you can download the SVG here if you'd like. The status line is available here. You can download it. And the settings.json, again, I didn't ask it to do this, but I told it my intent was for you to be able to get access to these things, see them, understand how they work, and so forth. And so now there's a chance that by the time you see this site that it will be different, because one thing I did here today is I let it just put this, because we wanted to get it quickly and in one single shot. Notice I didn't touch DNS. Frankly, I wouldn't even have had to know what DNS is, except that I told it I wanted to pick my domain name. I don't know what AWS service it stood it up on yet. We're about to find out. I didn't need to know any of the technical details of how that worked. You saw me. I didn't even type the prompt. I used the microphone, spacebar to microphone, and told it to create the entire site. So that is, in fact, one shot. Now let's go back to Claude, see what it's got. And now he looks like he's done. And here he's got every file here ran during an actual build, a status line, a config, a script. The copy came back with its text. I made one edit. Fine, he edited some of the text. The kicker is the weakest line. One afternoon, one agent, everything's shown. Is a rule of three, which reads a little slogany next to the plainer prose above it. It does work as something you'd say out loud, which is why I left it. I guess it is something I'd say out loud. And again, some of the agents that it was working with, something broke. The agent didn't work. And so it kicked off a third agent to get the resources. This is one of those things that the agents are doing now, is they're able to self-regulate, self-manage things. Now that it's all done, we've got this all one-shotted. I am going to ask it, give me an overview of the AWS setup and the ongoing costs. Simultaneously, send that data to the other agent so that he can create an SVG of that information for us. So we'll get Claude to give us the information so we can see how much we're going to spend on this site that we one-shot. Now, we know we're spending $50 a month for oneshot.show. And let's see what it's going to cost us monthly for the way it stood it up. And I'm interested knowing AWS in how it stood it up. You may be as well. And then it's going to find price quotes and so forth. So he'll go off and get that information. I mentioned earlier that this might look a little differently when you go to the website. And the reason is we had it one shot, we had it build just one video worth of data for you to go and download. What I'd like to do over time is, as I make more videos, let's use this site to share the resources for those videos, which means it might look a little bit differently. It might give you the episode or the video or the link to the video and those sorts of things that will add to it. So those things might change, but I will probably keep the core of the site the same. Notice I'm at 250,000 tokens in my context window of a 1 million. So should be 25% of my context window. You see it says 4% until auto compact. I have mine set to auto compact at 300,000 tokens because I just feel it starts to get dumber after that. And so I want to make sure I don't continue with Claude once it gets into that dumber portion. You can set it wherever you want. You can leave it at 1 million. You can set it somewhere in between, but that's in your settings.json that you can update that and set that if you'd like to have some different value than the full size of the model. Okay, now while our original agent finishes compacting and setting things up, let me just bring up the SVG that the agent built here so that you can see it, what it costs to run oneshot.show. And so it shows the visitor comes in, comes through Route 53, goes to CloudFront. So again, if you don't understand how this stuff works on the web or you don't understand how it works in your AWS account, just ask Claude. You can ask it to visualize it. I didn't give it any other info other than the scripts and the prompts that I've created over time that I have in my directory that help facilitate my workflow. But here you can see how it built this all up. And then it actually provides a link here where I can go into the SVG. Now, one thing about SVGs, if you're not familiar, it's a vector graphics format. What that means is I can zoom in on it infinitely and the graphics will just get better. So some of the text is super small. That's the great thing about an SVG is you can zoom in here and go in, drill in into the information if you'd like to. And our original agent is going back and doing the work of putting that up on the web so that when you go visit the URL, I'm sure you will find all of it there. And again, welcome to download it. Welcome to have your own Claude. Create it. Last time you can go check out the website. It is oneshot.show. And we built it in this video. I am, for this account, I'm on the $100 a month Claude Code plan. And we used 18% of our 5-hour window. So you get 5 hours. If you use 100% of that window, they cut you off until the end of the 5 hours. So I have 4 hours left. Imagine that. And we've used 18% of my weekly allotment. We've used 2%. So with 2% of a weekly Claude, that's what we were able to one shot. Hope you learned some stuff. Check out geisel.software. Thanks.